official beginning. We need a cheers.
Okay.
Yes, cheers.
To old friends.
Cheers.
To old friends. I like that intro. That should be our intro from now on.
Cheers.
Welcome to Hangin with the Hunns. I'm your host, Todd. This is my lovely wife and co-host, Carrie.
Hello.
And this is our very special guest, young Arthur Smith III. I got to put my foot down. Sorry. I get yelled at when my Frodo feet are showing. So, we got some catching up to do.
Yes.
It's been a while. So we met probably, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Probably close to 20 years ago.
Yeah, at St. Peter's Church.
It was
Right.
Canvas Church.
Was it
Wasn't
Canvas?
it? Yeah, Canvas.
Yes.
That's where.
At Canvas. Okay, yeah. All right. So with Aaron.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Were y'all ever at St. Peter's Church?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Now, is that the place that's off of Kingsley?
No.
Okay.
St. Peter's is on Timuquana.
Okay, no.
Okay. All right. So at Canvas, yes. So that was a for people that don't know, there was a church that met at a movie theater, and
Yes.
and we I forget how I even ended up there. It was just sort of a God thing, and then next thing you know, the pastor, I had Kung Fu Soup. You made reference
Yes.
to that
Yeah.
earlier. So I had this thing, Kung Fu Soup, which eventually I made a podcast for about a year. And it was just a small gathering on a Tuesday night. And I was trying to figure out what to call it, kind of like you're trying to figure out what to name
Yes.
the realm here.
The realm.
The realm. And I do martial arts. Mostly it's karate, but Kung Fu just sounds cooler.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I would make food, and in the beginning I was making soup, so Kung Fu Soup. And years later I had a contest. I don't know if you've ever seen my shirt.
Yeah, well, Mason mentioned that. Our
Yep.
son Mason, I don't know how he remembered, but he remembered everything
Wow.
about it, about being at your house and everything. And he said, he goes, "You remember the contest for the drawing of the Kung Fu Soup?" And he's like, "Didn't you win that?" And I was like, "I don't even remember that." And then I'm like, "Wait, I do remember it." I don't think it was my drawing that I don't even know if I did a drawing, but I remember that. It was amazing that
Quincy, a friend of mine that actually does graphic art,
Yeah, it was-
designed a shirt, and I was like, "Oh, this
it's
is
so perfect.
amazing!" Yeah. So it was like a rising sun with a bowl of soup with a spoon, and all the little things in the soup were Kung Fu people,
Yeah.
and it said Kung Fu Soup.
Yeah,
And-
that's awesome.
and-
I remember that.
yeah.
If you have that picture, do you
Yeah,
still
I'll-
have it?
Okay.
Send
yeah,
me anything
yeah.
like that, and I'll
Yeah.
post it on the
Okay. Yes.
the
Yeah.
podcast right
Yeah.
here.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm actually wanting to sell those again. I want to redo them and be able to sell those. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
one
we-
of my projects.
We might be able to help you because we have a heat press and we do
yes.
all kinds of merch and stuff like that. So
That
we
would be
just
really, really
recently
good.
got into that. We're having a blast doing
Yeah.
our own shirts and
Nice.
everything for the bands and all the merch and everything. That's
I
fun.
think our daughter's making a shirt tonight. She's got a thing this weekend, so
Oh,
she
yeah.
wants to with her friends, and they're making T-shirts. So she's making one for herself. Yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
very cool. So Kung Fu Soup, we would just get together and we'd have a little snack, eat a little something, and then do some martial arts. And sometimes it would break down into a full prayer time,
Mhm.
brothers praying for each other, and sometimes we would just drink beer and punch each other. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I
it
remember
was like the most guy
The
thing.
drunk
ever.
uncle that's my memory of it. Learning the drunk uncle, how to control the drunk uncle.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
with the manipulation and everything.
Yeah, because you
Okay.
really don't want to hit your drunk uncle
Right.
in the throat and pop his eyeball out. So you have to learn some passive techniques for controlling people. So
I've always wondered what you are doing over there because us women, the mothers and then the daughters, we all got together and did our little thing while you guys went out and did that. And I was like, wonder if they're really actually doing kung fu or karate or whatever it was.
We were, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
Good
I mean,
times.
some days it was a lot of talking and less technique and
Good fellowship.
yeah. I had a
Yeah.
guy, a gun guy that would come and he would talk about gun stuff and he's actually the one that got me into concealed carry and then on occasion we'd literally go out in the street and pad
Shoot.
up and fight.
just kidding.
Well, you can do that at my
Shoot the
house
stop
now,
signs.
but you couldn't do that there. Orange Park
Yeah.
is not good
didn't
for that.
like
But
that.
where I'm at now, we're out a ways. You can go in the back 40 and
Where are you
There's
now?
deer.
Is it Middleburg or?
no.
Oh.
It was a 40-minute drive here.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how much I love y'all.
Aw.
Commonwealth
Okay.
out there, Bulls Bay Highway.
okay.
Oh, my uncle lives out there.
Yeah.
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 I know
And
about that.
it's funny because I lived for a year a few blocks from here, and that's one of the stories of you were kind of asking how my wife and I met.
Mhm.
I don't know. You want me to kind of delve into
Sure.
that?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So
We have no-
Well, yeah, because I
No
guess
structure.
the last time, well, okay, so it's been just real quick though,
Mhm.
because we met at Canvas and, had all the fellowship time and all that, had good times there, good memories. And then, of course, whatever happened. And then we kind of didn't see you for a while, but then we had, our son was looking for, it's where you have to get the minutes and like serving time, but with school.
community service
Yes,
hours for
yes,
school. Yeah.
exactly.
Not
And
for jail.
Yeah, for
Yes.
school.
for school, yeah. And that's when we
Service
kind
hours.
of reconnected with you. And that, I think, is that church you were talking about. So it was on Timuquana.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
guess
I was
where you were
running.
doing-
I was running the food pantry.
Yes.
I ran a
Well, I
free.
remember
Yes.
seeing you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you called one time and you were like, "We need somebody to come get
Yeah.
this food."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'm there."
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on,
so-
on occasion we would have like a extreme abundance of food, and I just didn't want it to go to waste. So
But yeah,
Yeah.
so we took Mason over there and did some community hours there, and
Okay.
that was really helpful. But yeah, so from there, I believe that is where, when you were married to your wife now. So yes, tell us how y'all met.
yeah, so my current wife and I both were married to other people for 24 years, and neither one of us had divorce in our vocabulary, and just never expected it. And I won't go into that, but I'll just say that we didn't want it, didn't plan it, but it ended up that way, and there's been many blessings for that. And she likes to say that that when she divorced, she didn't want any man, and I wanted all the women. So I was like, I'm free, and so I sort of put God in a box, and like, I'll come and visit you on Sunday, and I'm just going to do my thing. And I went a little wild, confessingly, and then I was running the food pantry, and this lady came, and she had a daughter in a wheelchair, and she's better at telling the story, but I noticed her, and I went and played guitar. So I would have my guitar, and I would play just for fun and just to kind of keep people calm, because the way it was set up, it was really stressful. Like you had to wait in the heat and
Yes.
wait a long time. And eventually I changed the way we did it, and we did a drive-through, which there was still waiting, but you were relaxed in your
AC.
car. And then as soon as, it started, like ping, 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 like we were during COVID, we were serving 900 families a week with about 50 pounds of food.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
it was
amazing.
crazy. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, this lady is there and playing guitar for her daughter that's in a wheelchair, and I'm being all like nice and just, doing my normal thing. And so she sees the garden. Oh, there's a garden. Yeah. We have a little community garden. And what, I'd love to volunteer. I love vegetables. And And I was like, oh, very cool. Well, let me get your number. And, oh, you need my number so that I can, in case something goes wrong. No, no, no. You want me to tell you on? No, no, no. And then finally I was like, so, are you single? and she said that she giggled like a schoolgirl, and she really did. And it was this cute little giggle, and she was all like, and in her words, she creepered me on Facebook, and she saw my attributes, and she was like, he could be my friend. So her line that I was going to share with you earlier that I paused, she said she came for vegetables and left with a husband. So
wow, okay.
Yeah, because I have on paper, I'm very impressive. I've accomplished a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been a long road. I've never made a lot of money. But I feel like I've helped a lot of people.
That's great. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I was at a restaurant not too long ago with my wife, and the waitress comes up to my wife and said, is your husband's name Young? And did he used to run a food pantry? And and I'm like, yeah. When I was a kid, which made me feel really old.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It had only been like 5 years or something. When I was a kid, my mom, just really needed help, and we came there, and you helped us out, and it was really,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and just like,
it is such a big deal. Some people don't really think about it, but we've been there. When you have those times that you don't have that money to go shopping, and you want to feed the kids, and sometimes you just have those hard times, and we're very, very thankful for places like that.
Yeah, because you kind of have the idea when you're in that position like we were in, you don't want to ask for anything, so you feel like you're like a charity case, but every food pantry we ever went to, they were like so welcoming, and they're like, no, come on,
and you don't have
please,
to ask, it's there, and
exactly.
that you can go there without any questions, and you don't have to explain anything, and it's just like sometimes it's just easier, and you feel like I can do that versus going to ask somebody for help or money or anything like that, in a difficult time. So,
well, multiple times I had people come to me, and when I would tell them what I was doing, and they were like, well, what do you do when the people in the Cadillacs pull up and coming to get the free food and stuff? And I said, well, I've gotten to know these people, and I found out usually the person in the fancy, expensive car is bringing their neighbor and their daughter, and the food that they get, they're given to their kid or their other, or their other neighbor or whatever. Right. And that it's, that they're not doing it out of selfishness. They're doing it to help the other people. And that helped change some of the perspective. Because even when I first started, there was a group of older people that were volunteering and had been volunteering for a long time. And I remember asking, I said, hey, how can we increase what we're giving to people? Because these elderly women would come and wait in the heat, and they would walk away with 2 pieces of meat. And by meat, I mean, sometimes it was a pack of bologna and maybe a sausage or whatever. And then a little bag with, 3 or 4 vegetables, piece of fruit.
Right.
And they would just walk away in their hand, and you could come once a month. That was it. Once a month, and you get this little bag of stuff.
Right.
When by the time I was done, you could come 3 times a week. Every time, there was no limit.
Right.
You could come every time you needed help.
Wow.
Now, granted, there were people that took advantage of it, but I would rather a few people take advantage than the other people that really needed it. And it was such a blessing in so many other ways. One of my favorite stories to tell is this lady that would basically show up and call everybody a racist, and that you were given that race more food, and this race was getting that. And every single time she would show up, she just had this attitude and anger. And every time I would, because after the first time I watched for her, and when I saw her, I went up, I was just extra nice, extra kind to her, helpful, help her to her, to her car and all these things. And it was about the fourth or fifth time that she came, and she pulled me to the side. She said, I just want to let you know, I was diagnosed with stage 5 cancer, or whatever the highest stage is. I'm supposed to know this now that I'm a nurse. And so she had the highest level of cancer and no family anymore. Like, everybody's passed away. Nobody's around. She's just like by herself, and she's just angry at the world. And she asked me to pray for her. And from then on, every time she would show up, she'd flag me down, and I'd go over and pray with her and give her food. And she was kind, and, so
that's awesome.
So she just needed that love.
Wow.
Never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to be that way in traffic.
Yeah.
You never know what
exactly.
somebody's going through,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard, but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. So back to Wonder Woman, as I call her. She tells this whole story, and it sounds selfish coming from me. It's funny when it comes from her, but it's like, I have a degree in psychology, so I'm her counselor. I was a massage therapist for years, so I'm her massage person. I run a free food pantry, so I've got this food connection. Martial arts, so I've got the
protector,
to protect her. And then ministry, that she loves God and ministry, and so she's like, yeah, you can be my friend. Well, the story goes that she broke up with me 6 times, and including one of those times, literally moved to Gainesville to kind of get away from me.
Wow.
And
what did you do?
it was the whole, like, she was in love with me, but she felt like she's like, you can have me or you can have your harem. And I wasn't sure what I wanted, and we kept kind of reconnecting, and so there wasn't anything that I was doing, but she was afraid to get her heart hurt again. And because she didn't want a man. And she's like, well, we can be friends, but I just kept chasing after her, and I knew there was something about her that I wanted. And we ended up together. I think for one of the defining moment stories for her, again, I'm kind of talking for her, but I think she would agree, is she was in Gainesville, and Sarah is her daughter, one of the quadruplets. So she's the mother of quadruplets.
Okay, wow. I did not know that. When you were talking about that earlier, I'm like, who are these quadruplets?
Yeah. So literally, so
wow.
there's 4 of them, and I'll insert my joke here. So we have 6 27-year-olds.
Wow.
So she has quadruplets that are 27. I have a 27-year-old.
Wow.
So my oldest is now 27.
Yeah.
My youngest is 17.
Yes.
And then one of the quadruplets married a 27-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
And then actually one of the quadruplets is one of the other quadruplets is about to marry a 27-year-old.
Wow, what?
Yeah, and then she has an older son also.
What is this number 27?
Yeah,
I mean, there's got to be something significant.
It sounds like that's a good 27.
Yeah.
It's not in the rock industry.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I just figured there's something with this 27. That's
well, in a year it'll be 28. So it'll change.
Yes.
But yeah. So I don't know if you know, but one of my earliest jobs, well, besides helping my parents run a restaurant when I was like 12, I was a job coach for disabled people, and I trained this disabled people to work in regular jobs. And I met one of my best friends there, Rodney Robinson, and he was an incredible person. He's passed away, but I trained him to roll silverware, and I trained him in martial arts also. He was totally blind, totally deaf in one ear, hearing impaired, scoliosis, a heart condition, one leg shorter than the other, all of these things. So even as a kid, I had a passion for people that were on the fringe. I kind of felt like I was on the fringe. But my best friend as a child had brain cancer. So he had brain surgery and had to wear a hockey helmet until his skull grew enough to put a plate in. So, I knew I knew what it was like to be bullied and not accepted. And I think that's where my passion for people like that came. So not only did I think June, my current wife, is beautiful and wonderful and an amazing woman, but her daughter is awesome also. And now she's my daughter. And so I'm so thankful for that. So we've been together for 8 years, married for 5. We got married during COVID. That was fun.
I think I remember that because I remember seeing something on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We initially planned this giant party at Murray Hill Theater. We're going to have like 200 people and just have,
at least the venues were available.
Yeah. We were going to have like a band and we're just going to do this
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah. So there was this super cute picture of us at the Volstead. Have you been to the Volstead? If you haven't,
I know that.
You haven't need to go. It's a speakeasy. The front of it.
We haven't yet to see a speakeasy. We hear about them all the time.
It's downtown.
Okay.
It looks like a post office, like from the 1920s. But then you walk through a curtain and there's a bar.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've always wanted to do that. Just feel like it's so magical. It's so like cool.
It's a dry cleaners.
Yeah. So I'll drop you that picture.
Yeah.
And we're dressed up, had a date night, and she did this like cool like 1920s like kind of like thing with the phone, and we took this picture and we were making that our wedding invitation. And so we're just going to have this big party, and then COVID, no. So we were going to this little church down in Orange Park, which actually I ended up on the rotation to preach there. Okay, well, you can have the wedding, you can have the wedding here. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. And then 3 days before the wedding, he had gotten some official, like, no weddings, no gatherings.
Right.
Yeah.
And so 3 days before the wedding, he's like, hey, you can't have the wedding. Sorry. Too bad. So sad. And praise God, this friend of mine, I occasionally preach at his little Filipino church over on Timuquana, which is right down from St. Peter's. The International Bible Church of the Nazarene, but it's mostly Filipino people, and it's great because you should go. They feed you really well after church.
I bet.
And
I've got that's my weakness.
So praise God, the pastor said, "Hey, you can have the wedding here," and it just turned out beautiful. Plus, we had met at the pantry, so we did a photo shoot across the street and at the food pantry where we had met.
Yes,
and
that's
so that was so that was really good. And so let's see. So met Wonder Woman and then June, and she ended up we visited Murray Hill Theater one time. I was talking with Tony because years ago I used to work at Murray Hill Theater, and for whatever reason we got together with Tony, and he's like, well, I'm looking for somebody part-time. And June's like, well, I can run a snack bar. And so next thing you know, she's running the snack bar. She's setting up for the shows, right. And then she's booking a band.
Been there forever. I love
then yeah, I know. That's what we always hear. It's the 30-year anniversary, and people are like, yeah, I used to go, man, back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
when it was a theater,
me and
too.
Josh from Canvas, we had a band and we played there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sacred Hero.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a Christian punk band.
Very cool.
There.
That was
like
fun.
our pinnacle.
Nice. So now she runs the theater. So she's the manager and does all the, all the stuff. There's
awesome.
a few people that are doing things. Um, but
Do they
so
still have music there, like live music?
yeah,
Oh,
30.
gosh.
So we're fixing to have the
Yeah.
30-year anniversary.
Wow.
Phil Keggy is
When
coming
is
out of
that?
like, was it August, I think.
You might go to that.
Yeah, it's coming
Yeah.
up quick. So
Yeah.
there's 30 bands in 30 days. So
Wow.
Phil Keggy came out of retirement to play. Goaty Hook is coming. Like a bunch of, like, I'm horrible at naming bands. I never. I'm such. It's so funny that I ended up at Murray Hill because I was working. I mean, I worked security for POD. And,
Yeah.
and
I remember that.
and
show.
all of these crazy
They
punk,
played there a lot.
punk shows,
Yeah.
and like my speed is Amy Grant, and
Right.
big band music. So we started doing swing dancing. So I ended up,
Yes, I remember
in
that
God's sense
too.
of humor,
Yep.
I ended up teaching the swing dancing at Murray Hill. So for
So
like
you
7
do that
years.
too?
Yeah.
Are
yeah.
you still
Jack of
doing
all
that?
trades, I'll tell you.
Well,
what.
there's still swing dancing, but I'm not the teacher. But
Okay, well, no, we need to.
We have talked
I
about for
know,
years to
forever,
try
so-
that. I'm like, we need to just do
This
it.
is, so there's
This
a
is
free
God bringing
lesson.
us together.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's a free dance lesson every swing night, and it's a cool thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll
it
definitely
always
check
looks
that
so
out.
much fun. So yeah, we'll have to try.
Yeah. So let's see, where are we at? Let's see. End up Murray Hill Theater, and I kind of bounce around with a few different things.
Where does yoga come in?
Oh
Yoga.
yes,
Okay, so
you both
'Cause
you
I wanna
and Jim
talk to you-
do that crazy yoga stuff. That I'm like,
acrobatic.
Acrobatic
yes.
yoga.
I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
How did they do that?
So okay, so that is in my that's my single story, how that began. So when I divorced, I really did kind of go through a depression and of like, I mean, it really hurt my heart. It's not what I wanted, and it was a complete change. And suddenly I'm living with my dad, and I had 11 o'clock curfew. So like I had to be home by 11 because he wanted to go to bed and not be disturbed. He didn't want to wake up in the middle of the night and shoot somebody. So
Right.
he wanted to know that I was home. And so, I mean, and that was fine. So I just kept looking for things to do while I was, just trying to live life and chasing women kind of thing. And I saw a thing on Facebook about acro yoga in the park, and I was like, well, I'll just go and watch, and brought my guitar, and I kind of set off in the distance, and I'm playing guitar, and I kind of joked this
in the lotus position.
this little lesbian lady calls me over. Hey, would you play guitar while we're doing handstands?
Probably know her.
And I'm like, okay, sure. So I start playing guitar, and they do this little short video, and then of course, hey, would you try this? And so I
Can you
start
balance
doing it.
us?
Yeah. So
Fair
so I have done martial arts since, like, I got serious in martial arts since in 1981. My dad and I started training together. We had done martial arts together when I was a kid, and he kind of stayed with it pretty much. And but I got serious in 9th grade in 81, and so I have balance and flexibility and the things that kind of require it.
Right.
And then it was fun. It was such a hippie atmosphere, and way more fun than regular yoga, because you have to work with the other person, and if you make a mistake, they said in the beginning, I was like, well, if you make a mistake, you don't say sorry, you say surprise.
Oh.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So it just became really interesting to challenge my body, because it's really about balance and communication, and there's a physical fitness to it. But like the lady said, that she's not going to sit at home and do 50 sit-ups, but she'll do upside down cartwheels for 4 hours with somebody, because it's fun. And so it was very physically demanding, and So I was kind of getting into it, and June and I were dating. So I pretty much had gotten to where almost every Sunday after church, I would go there and just hang out for like 4 or 5 hours.
So let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Brenda Starwalker?
I'm horrible at names.
She does, well, you would know her. She does yoga in the park.
Short purple hair.
Yeah, I think so. So I actually went to one of those.
Yeah.
And
she's our friend.
Yeah.
We actually did a podcast with her, a month ago?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so.
Anyway, so this is very different, but it can be very much the same if you put that attitude to it. So it could be very breathing and balance and all of those things, because some of it really requires focus. And like I have a video of me with a guy, I'm laying on my back with my feet in the air, and there's a guy standing on my feet playing ukulele.
What? Okay, no, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so I'll have to drop that. So
yeah.
So there's all these just challenging things, and then of course the people that do that kind of stuff are usually creative. So I met lots of jugglers and martial artists.
Crazy juggling.
And yeah.
Oh yeah, we saw you juggling recently.
I was like, what the heck?
Nice
He's
juggling?
Yeah,
like real juggling.
We're like, is he going to the circus?
So in high school, I had a really good friend that had kind of a death wish, and he would juggle. He taught me to juggle flaming torches, but he juggled machetes and swords swallowed.
Yeah, right. Like the Venice people
rode a crotch rocket and all kind of dangerous things, and so I picked up a little bit of that. So I've never been a very good juggler, but I'm okay, and it's
could have fooled me.
Yeah. So so I can do.
Not just anybody could do that.
I showed her the video. I was like, is this AI or is there anything you can't do?
So I have crazy videos, and I've heard that before. Like, it's easier to tell me the things that you don't do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you tried something where you're like, okay, no, this just isn't for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've tried lots of things, but I enjoy trying things. It's stretching your abilities and stretching your boundaries and keeping your brain active. And, so I became a nurse and I really even more so delved into, because in psychology, it's about how your brain works. But I discovered that your body affects your brain so much. The thing that kind of blew me away was the gut brain connection, and
we're realizing that.
Yeah.
Somebody said something on a podcast the other day. I was just like blown away. It was like, psychological problem here, take this pill. Well, where does that pill go? That pill goes to your digestive system,
right?
That affects your brain. It's like,
yeah.
So I mean, I understand. But anyway, so there's so much more to our bodies, and the whole time I was in nursing school, I just kept seeing these things and going, man, don't take this medicine don't eat this food while you're taking this medicine. I'm like, wait a minute. So you're saying the food does the same thing that the medicine does, so you don't want to take it.
That's got to be so frustrating if you're learning that in nursing school.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah. And literally at one point there was like 2 sentences about, there's this diet that stops seizures. And what?
Right.
And I had,
but we have a pill for that.
Yeah. Oh, it's just easier.
Yeah. So Sarah, our daughter that's disabled, she recently had this crazy vagal nerve stimulator implanted, and she's sort of the bionic woman. She's got all these gadgets and devices and things. So she has a wire wrapped around her vagal nerve, and then it goes to her chest, and underneath her chest is a battery, and the battery is controlled, like there's AI, a chip or whatever, and it calculates her nervous system and zaps her vagal nerve when her body's overstimulated. Wow. And so it has a regular So currently, right now, she gets zapped every 4 minutes, but it was a more than that. But so every 4 minutes she gets zapped. But if her body starts kind of overstimulating, it'll zap her extra. And it's funny because they kept telling us repeatedly, one of the side effects of this is good mood. Like it puts you in a good mood. So that's really cool. But the big benefit is she was
You don't
taking
see that too often.
Yeah. I was like, there's some people I want to install one.
Watch those
in.
commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How much are these?
So she was on this medicine phenobarbital, which was just slowly killing her. It was giving her osteoporosis and slowed her development down. She lost a lot of her abilities. She was having trouble swallowing. She trouble digesting, and when you don't, so it's like a domino. Like when you don't digest, and she's fed with a G tube, continuous, consistent amount, but when you're not digesting, then that affects your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's got also an insulin pump that uses AI to calculate and stop and deliver insulin to her body. And so she's just this fragile balance, and the phenobarbital was just crushing and slowing everything, her brain, everything. And now she's completely off the phenobarbital. She still takes seizure meds, but she's, off of that. And so that's a dramatic improvement. And, so she's already making some improvements, and she pretty much uses one arm, but just the other day she reached across and pulled a bracelet off, but she had to straighten her arm to her other arm to do it. So it wasn't just a single arm pull. So I don't know if you kind of realize that crossing your midline is a big neurological thing. A lot of things, one of the trainings that they do, it's kind of like yoga, but they take children that have neurological issues, and they just sort of train them how to crawl, like to move like this. Because children that move in unison, their wiring isn't quite the same. So children that crawl like in one motion rather than, so there's lots of training and neurological yoga, it's been called, that they do to activate that. So I've been trying to activate her left arm a lot recently, really massaging it, and I'll use her left arm to wipe her face with it, and just do things to stimulate that. But she was able to balance with me assisting, so she was sitting on my feet and balancing and able to look around, and so just lots of really cool things.
So the AI, all the things that she's had, how long has she had them implanted?
The vagal nerve stimulator, about a year, roughly. I'm not real good with timelines. So about a year, and that's been doing really good.
I was going to say, is that what's made her more mobile, like having more mobility?
Yes,
awesome.
because she's off the phenobarbital.
Yes.
Right.
And so reduced seizure meds, so her brain's clearer, and
so it's almost like that's helping her naturally be able to move instead of a chemical.
Yeah. So you talk about yoga. So one of the and we jokingly went om at the beginning of this. That vibration stimulates your vagal nerve, which calms your system. So it's like literally,
that makes sense,
calms your system down.
So does Goose Frabu.
Or humming.
Humming. Yeah.
We're always like Goose Frabu.
Yeah. So so we'll see. Wonder Woman, Murray Hill Theater, acro yoga,
nursing,
martial arts, nursing. So I guess I'll share with you how I got into nursing. So I've worn so many hats. When I divorced, my dad said, "Hey, why don't you finish your master's degree?" So I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I had finished most of my master's in Christian leadership. I was going to get an MDiv at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, which is an incredible seminary that had just opened up right when I was looking to go to seminary. And because we were looking at the possibility of moving to go to a good seminary, and it just opened up in Jacksonville, and I heard about it.
Wow.
So I started. So I went for a while, and long story short, didn't get to finish. And Dad said, "Hey, why don't you finish? And I'll help you out." So praise God, I finished my master's degree, and I'm like, I'm done with school. No more school. I'm so happy. And I became a prison chaplain. I was over the faith and character program in Lodi, and just an incredible ministry there. There were some challenges. I'll just say I had a supervisor that was rather challenging to work with, but everything else was.
We all?
Yeah. So it was such an incredible ministry, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm back, because many years ago I had been a prison chaplain, and I said, I'm back in prison ministry, and this is going to be awesome, and God's using me, and then my dad got sick, and I stepped down from the job and moved in with him, expecting him to get better and me to move out, but he spiraled down. I think he just felt the peace of we were there, and because he had COVID, and I think he got the long COVID issues from it. So he just kind of failed to thrive and just sort of spiraled down. And so praise God, we inherited his house, which is really far from Lodi. And like, well, I really don't want to drive an hour every day or it was over an hour. So I was just kind of figuring out, well, what am I going to do? And I got an email from Sarah's nursing company. Any parents will help you out with nursing school. And
wow, that's awesome.
And because I had my bachelor's and master's, well, really just the bachelor's is all I needed. The basics were covered. So I only did 1 year. So now I'm an LPN. I could become an RN, but like I wouldn't make that much more money, and it would be a lot more schooling.
Right.
And I'm already get paid a decent paycheck for 40 hours a week to hang out with my own daughter.
Wow.
So, which is incredible, because I have some visions and things that I want to do.
Right.
But just, I think it's going to give me the ability to do it. Right now we're looking at moving, because the house that we inherited is amazing and wonderful, but it's not suited for a wheelchair. And praise God, it's 6 acres, but it's, how do you can't really do a whole lot in a wheelchair unless you build things, you know. And I had looked at building a walkway to a screened in gazebo or something, but it still didn't change the fact that there were it's hard to get nurses, because we're kind of far out. And even though I'm working 40 hours a week, she's 24/7 nursing. She's total dependent care, nonverbal. She understands everything that's going on. She knew that June and I were a thing before we really knew. Like she would get this little giggle and this little glint in her eye, and she understands the world. And she likes cute boys and shopping. So anyway, so we're trying to fix up the house and get it ready, because we'd like to move somewhere where it's a little easier for nurses to come, and just the house has small doorways and a little better set up for her, and hopefully a sidewalk where we can go for a walk, and because our road has semi trucks going up and down it, and there's no sidewalk, and so it'll be perfect for somebody. We're just praying that the right person comes along, and that we can make that happen. And, but once we move, then I have a vision for some ministry things and books that I want to write, and I want to get back to my podcast. I sort of halfway attempted one, and I called it Yas and Jas, but it was young Arthur Smith and June, but it just didn't. it just didn't work. So I'm hoping to do another one, and then June still wants to stay at Murray Hill Theater. She loves the ministry there. It's so powerful. I'm kind of pinging my little ADHD happening. There was a community service worker, and he came in to do his hours for jail.
Right.
And so he's doing his hours, and he texts June. He'll only known her a little bit. He was like real quiet. It's like, hey, I'm going to be homeless. Do you know anywhere to rent cheap? And we had a mobile home that wasn't ready for anything. I said, we've got a mobile home, but it's like not clean. It's not fixed. It's not. He said, well, I used to run a handyman business, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, he moved in. I eventually baptized him in the ocean.
Wow.
He met up with this girl, and like, oh, we go to church on Sunday. So she's like going to church, and she got baptized. And so it's just really God using her and us in this place that we didn't plan to be at. It doesn't quite fit, but he's still using us there. And so it's been a whirlwind of a journey, but I'm so humbly thankful for every step, and for the people in my life, like y'all, even though we don't hang out.
Right.
And it's still good to know that, there's people that love the Lord and are doing good things and having fun.
Right.
I mean, how much more fun than rock and roll music? And
it's so much fun. This has been great for us.
Drinking beverages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I tried to start a podcast.
Yeah, it was 10 years.
10,
he's been
15
wanting to.
years ago, and just couldn't do it because I needed her help. So
but
we didn't know it at the time.
I didn't really want to do it, and
heck no.
He was just waiting for the right person to come along, and we're just like, whatever. I'm sure it'll happen when it happens. I had no intentions, and then it was like a God thing, definitely. Like I don't know if we've talked about it before. I'm sure we've done a podcast on that before, but it was just one day I felt that I needed to be like, I think we should just do it. I think I'm the person that you've been wanting to do this with.
Yeah,
Let's
definitely
just do it.
And we have a vision that, I'd love to do this with, we talked about nursing homes and people, at the end of their lives wanting to tell their stories, so their generations
record their stories
after them have something to see,
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it, like both my parents are gone, and I'd love to have video of them, or, them telling their stories, because it gets lost if it's not, people tell their stories, but people forget them. And
my dad told me one time that he realized one day after his grandfather had passed, my great grandfather had been in the Civil War, and like, he never thought to ask him what it was like.
Right.
Yeah, we don't think about those things when we're younger, especially.
Like, there's so many people have so many awesome stories, and they don't think about telling them, and then they're gone and the story's gone.
Yeah.
He told my dad, he said, grandson, you see that moon up there? I said, he said, not your children and not their children, but maybe their children, I think, will one day land on the moon. And within his lifetime, we landed on the moon. And he had gone literally from horse and buggy when he was
allegedly
born.
No.
Yeah, no.
Allegedly. He had literally gone from horse and buggy to people landing on the moon. So
can you imagine that? So crazy.
We were just talking about that too, how we're the last generation, well, some of us, that never, that experience, like, okay, so there's a generation that will never experience not having the internet.
Right.
And we were just talking about that. How crazy is that to even think about?
Yeah, I found a phone cord, the little spiral stretchy phone cord, and my daughter's like, "What is that?" You know, like so.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean one of these?
Oh, that another one was we were my stepdaughter just yep awesome. My stepdaughter just moved into an apartment, and there's this attachment thing on the wall with a plug.
Yeah.
She's like, "What is that?" It's like, that's where the phone goes.
Yeah. What kind of phone is that? Look at that. Look at that.
Is that a plug? Plug the phone in?
Yeah.
Is that European?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like phone booths. You know, those are so strange to our kids. They're like, what the heck? There's phone booths? Yeah. That's where we went to call people.
So I know I'm kind of dominating the talking, but
that's
this is what
your podcast.
That's why we have here.
It's your story.
So you said something earlier. What do you not do, or you kind of do everything? And so a lot of people don't know I have dyslexia. So I really, really struggled in school, and dyslexic people have a tendency to be very uncoordinated. And
would not have guessed that about you. Nope.
Yeah. So I rewired my brain with martial arts, and so I literally didn't know left from right. When I would write, like I remember somebody would call, and I'd write down their phone number. I'd have to put a star at the beginning because I didn't know which way the phone number, which way I was writing it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know if it was the correct way. So they were in order, but I sometimes would go right to left instead of left to right, which is funny because when I studied Hebrew, it was really easy.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you about too, because I remember hearing that you studied Hebrew and you can read Hebrew, and that reads from
from right to left.
Right to left. Back.
I took Greek, but only one semester, and that's why I switched to Master's of Art in Christian Leadership, because the MDiv would require 4 more courses in Greek, and I didn't want to spend another year because you can't take all of them at the same time, so they have to be in order. So I was like, I'll just do the MACL. So I have a master's degree, but not an MDiv.
So what is that?
Master's in Divinity. So usually pastors. That's a pastor's degree.
Right.
So, but you talked about all these different things that I do, and one of my eye-opening experiences when I learned about Leonardo da Vinci. And I don't know that he had dyslexia, but he wrote all of his notes backwards. Now, he may have been doing it to hide it from the church because he did things that the church didn't agree with at that time, like studying anatomy and things. So he may have just done that on purpose, which meant he was intelligent, but it was probably easy for him, probably because he was dyslexic, because I've noticed dyslexic people tend to be creative because the way your brain works is different than the way other people think. Mm-hmm. And so you have to think differently. Mm-hmm. So that becomes a pattern in your life. So you tend to think differently in everything that you do. Mm-hmm. So I decided that I could learn anything I wanted to do. I didn't care if I was good at it or not. I would just,
makes sense, huh?
Just try things. So, like at the Filipino church, when I go, they have me play drums.
Right.
I don't have a drum set. Now I learned to play drums when I worked at the prison. We got a bunch of equipment donated.
Right.
And everybody stepped up to an instrument, and nobody stepped up to the drums. And I'm like, hey, Chap, Chaplain
awesome.
Smith, why don't you play? I don't know how to play, but I know how to dance, so I have rhythm. And so
nothing to do with drums.
well, in
my case,
but rhythm,
anyway. Right?
But rhythm is important, and so I ended up playing drums, and we had this awesome jazz blues guy that played blues guitar. So I got this nice feel for playing jazzy drum stuff, and the rest of it was pretty hymnal kind of level things. So it wasn't too complicated. So when I go there, I play the drums. Like which to me is kind of funny because I don't ever practice drums.
You just get on there and
I just get on there and
playing.
follow the rhythm and I follow their lead, but following their lead is communication. So I watch for verbal and physical cues, and that's kind of like acro yoga. You know, you have to communicate with your partner. And when I taught swing dancing, you know, I kind of have this story about how it, like, marriage is supposed to be swing dancing. There's supposed to be a leader, but the leader isn't bossing the other person around, as you're communicating and working together. And particularly in swing dancing, the female role can guide and lead. Hey, you're about to run into something.
Hey,
you know,
I might be able to do that then, because
So-
I'm usually tend to lead. I was told that from my grandpa, who tried to teach me how to dance, and he would get aggravated, like, stop leading. I'm like, I don't even. What are you talking about? I don't know.
so you just have to learn how to feel, you know, and adjust. So the, you know, the one person is like, we're going this way, and as you're going that way, you know, your partner's like, nope, you're about to run into a wall.
Okay.
You know, we need to go this way, and
Okay.
I'm going to do this cool move here while you're doing your thing, and so it just becomes this literal dance.
I love
So-
that.
Yeah, we
That's
got to do
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
And then I'll say I've been doing for a number, you know, quite a few years, Filipino stick fighting. And the Filipino stick fighting, it's not. So the Dog Brothers do this version where they basically pad up and just beat the crap out of each other. And there's, you know, there's a place for that. And I think that's a good thing in many ways. But I'm almost 60 and I don't heal as quickly as I used to. So what I do is these patterns, which, you know, basically the options of where I'm going to hit you, or I'm sorry, of where I'm going to try to hit you. And so you kind of know where I'm aiming for generally, but you don't know when, and you don't know which hand, and you don't know which end of the stick, and you know, the long end, the short end, this hand, my foot. So it's kind of like this chess game that moves and flows, and you have to, so it's kind of like a dance that if you make a mistake, you get hit with a stick. So,
yeah.
And the better you are with the other person, the faster you go, and the more it's like a real fight, even though you're not really fighting.
Right.
So, but you really develop a confidence and a skill, and I've never considered myself actually that great of a martial artist. I've just been doing it a really long time. And I like to say I've been beat up by some really skilled people. So I've learned a lot from that, learned from my mistakes.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Well, then you say it also rewired your brain, so that's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My dad used to say I couldn't put both hands on my butt without falling on my face. Literally, I was just super uncoordinated. I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good with girls. I couldn't do music. I sang out of key.
Very awkward.
So now I sing and play instruments and juggle fire and balance people on top of me. So it's just,
that's awesome.
So it's not only a physical thing; it's definitely a mental thing.
Yeah.
You know, to learn martial arts.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'll correlate it to a spiritual journey also. Is it really God at work? Because it's, we're supposed to be good stewards of everything that God has given us. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to be protectors of our families, and that, not everybody needs to be a martial artist, but it's a whole method of taking care of yourself, being able to take care of your family, to protect those that are around you. So it's a whole different way of thinking, which, and spiritually, we're in a spiritual warfare. We're in a spiritual battle, and it's a dark world that we live in, as we see in the news, and your little mostly peaceful protests the other day. Yeah. So that's a little scary.
That's my hometown.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do when violence comes? And I've had pacifists over the years say, oh, well, I wouldn't want to kill anybody. And I'm like, well, I don't want to kill anybody either. But if it's between you and me, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Because I need to take care of my family, and it's not selfish for me. I want to live, but I would die. I would die for somebody. The Bible talks about us laying down our life,
Right.
for another person is a good thing. And I would die for my family. But what's really difficult is to live for your family and live every day for your family. And the best way to do that is to keep your eyes on God. And really that's June and I. She was angry at the world, and I was angry, but the more we looked back, I'll just say back to God, when we started focusing our eyes back on God, it really brought us together. And I'll kind of leave you with this. One day I was sort of talking bad about myself, being self-deprecating, as they say, and she goes, "Stop." I was like, "What?" She said, "You're not allowed to talk that way about the person that I love."
Mm-hmm.
And that is the
That's
whole
great.
way that she carries herself, and of love and edifying, and that just hit my soul deep. I can't talk bad about myself. I need to be. I'm a child of God, someone that God. I'm in the image of God, so I need to live up to that.
Same thing. I'm sure that's how he feels. Like he doesn't want us to talk about that,
Right.
bad about ourselves, because he loves us, and he's like, "Do you see what I'm trying to do with you? Don't think that way. You gotta think. You gotta stay positive here.
Yeah,
I'm working it out for you. Might not look like it, but
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, how many arguments have we had, and where, stuff's rough.
it
and,
happens.
I
I
mean,
mean, we all.
God
It's
is
not
always
perfect.
the one
yeah.
that brings us back to,
Because
where-
I feel like it's that nudge, that little tap on the shoulder. Like, what are you doing? That's not how you're supposed to be thinking.
one, like, we're in this together, it's not a battle between us. It's the world against us, and so,
and it's good to be able to recognize that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what keeps us strong together. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, even though we might get on each other's nerves sometimes, because
Yeah, we're human.
we all have our issues.
I don't think it'd be the same if we didn't. Honestly, I mean, that's what
How
makes
boring
our
a
marriage
world would it be if everybody was exactly like you?
I know.
I mean, if she listened to everything I said, that's boring. Because I'd say crazy things.
Yeah. Yep. I have dumb ideas sometimes. I need somebody to be like,
to get
hey,
it out there.
That is a dumb idea.
Yeah,
You need to not
exactly.
do that.
Yeah,
That's good to have.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
We've got a couple people that keep me in check. Okay, yeah, you're right. That's not a good idea.
There was a rock and roll
I think
guy.
everyone needs that.
There was a rock and roll guy that wrote a song called "Hey Stupid," and his best friend committed suicide, and he wrote the song because if he had known that his friend was struggling, he would have showed up. And like, guys kind of understand this.
Right.
You come up and you're like, hey, stupid. That's not anything smart to do. Come on, man. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no facade. You just, hey, that's a dumb idea, dude. You need to get over it. And I'm here for you. And how can I help?
Yeah.
So that song, he wished he could have gone to his friend and said, hey, stupid,
cut it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how many times? I mean, I know there's so many times that we end up saying that when it's too late. So, but it's like you wonder.
You don't know.
But I know, but it's like you wonder, how do you know before? Like that's the hard.
Well, that's part of it is we have to communicate.
Yeah.
And we have to have fellowship. And that's where the Bible talks about that God wants us to fellowship together.
Yes.
Because fellowshipping together is where the iron sharpens iron, where you, the rough edges, you don't know that you love somebody until you ride 8 hours in a small car with them. You know, you spend time with people.
Right.
Well, it's relationship.
Yeah, it's
definitely,
relationship,
because
yeah.
then you have that. That's what it is when you have a relationship, at least with one friend, enough to know that person enough to be comfortable to share those hard times
And
those difficult
like
times.
one thing that we've learned is you don't really know about that the power of fellowship until you're without it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like we've been,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
went through
we've
that.
kind of been
Mhm.
struggling because we don't have a church anymore, you know, and like we went to my friend just got out of prison, and we met him at a church and went to the service and everything, and it was great. It was like, oh, back in the house of God,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, you just, there's that feeling. And then, you know, when we left, we're like, there's the hurt that's there too from past
Yeah.
experiences. So,
Yeah.
but we haven't really had that kind of fellowship. So, you know, stuff like this, I'm so happy that you're here, you know, because it's somebody we could talk to about God, and I mean, it's a fellowship thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was on rotation preaching in a church that didn't include us. They forgot to invite us to Mother's Day dinner and Father's Day dinner. Like,
Right.
and it was a really small church. And then we were part of a big church recently, and we were like, hey, can we be part of this? Can we be part of that? And there was no, no connection. So, you know, and there's no perfect church. The joke is, if you find the perfect church, don't join it because you'll ruin it. But you know, you've got to find somewhere where you fit and where you can contribute and not just be fed.
Right.
Or, you know, you got to kind of find your niche, and so, you know, we're going to a different church right now, but I struggle with connecting because we plan to move. So I don't want to dig deep roots when I'm gonna leave.
Be leaving.
You know, so I'm kind of, so Murray Hill Theater has been my quasi church, even though it's not a church. It's where my spiritual heart is.
But I believe that is church. I believe it's like what we're doing right now. You can call this church or fellowshipping, or three or more gathered, right? Is it, or two or more, three or more?
Well, it's we're two or more together. But
yes.
But I mean, I have some theological semantics that this is part of church, but it's not completely church, because there's things that the church does as a whole that we don't completely do as a fellowship.
For sure.
Now, you could, you know, I could, you know, you could baptize me out in the pond out back, or, you know, whatever. So you could have those roles. It's not a physical building, and it doesn't have.
I wasn't calling it that. I was just saying, like,
but I just wanted to clarify, because I've had so many people over the years tell me that, well, Murray Hill Theater is my church. I'm like, well, kind of. And even in, when I was a prison chaplain, the chapel isn't the inmate's church.
Yeah.
It's close, but it's not quite, it doesn't fulfill all the roles that a church would, because of the position of where they're at. One thing is, and it's kind of simple, but they can't tithe. You can't tithe it when you're an inmate. Yeah. So you can't give to anything. And then even if you could, then there's issues with all of that. So there's trauma with giving somebody. I don't know how much you know about prison, but you can't give somebody something.
Well,
don't accept something.
In prison, I guess technically that is just fellowship. You're there to pray with them and fellowship with them, and then when they get out, they would connect with a church. Yeah. But
some people don't ever get out.
And then there's those who never get out.
So there's that. And
so then you got to think, then all they have is fellowship. That I believe that's even enough. God's going to meet them where they are. And, and I'm sure they serve in different ways. There might be things that they help other people while they're there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know some very powerful, mighty men of God that were in the prison. And of course I know a lot of people that are like, if you're not dunked, you're not baptized. Well, what do you do if you're in the desert? There's no, so you work with what you have, you work with what God has given you. And we're all on this journey, and we just have to seek God in the best way that we can. I'm not really worried about what denomination it is. I don't think when we get to heaven, there's going to be denominations worried about, which way. And I've had people ask me specific theological questions, and the Bible is not a legalistic book. Jesus really complained about the people that treated it like
right.
a law.
That's why Jesus had to come.
Yeah, so he wanted them to follow the spirit of the law.
Right.
So he came to get rid of sin.
Right.
But he didn't come just to show us how to live our best life ever. You can live a Christian life without being a Christian, and you will get benefits from it. You won't get eternal benefits from it, but you will get earthly benefits.
Right.
So you can not kill and be kind and give to people and be loving and act loving and go to church and do all these church things and not be a Christian and not have a relationship with Jesus.
That's interesting that someone would live that way, but I guess
so. There are people that live good lives, and not trying to call out, but the Mormon Church is very theologically different than Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you know about it, but
I have family that are
okay. Yeah. So theologically, they're very, very, very different. Mm-hmm. But on the surface, they look like Christians.
Okay, I got you.
And they live good lives, and they're good, good people. I have a good Mormon friend.
They used to come to the door. They were so sweet.
Oh, we did, yeah.
They were so sweet.
Yeah. So so you can be a good person. I knew an inmate that was Muslim, and he loved God, and he just really wanted to serve God, and he faithfully fought to serve the true Allah while he was there, and including would get in trouble because he would fight the racist Muslims that would get up and spout. He would physically fight them to not let them speak because they were preaching hatred, and he didn't like that. Mm-hmm. Now, I feel like he's on a journey because as a kid he had been to church, but he didn't really know that much about it. So it opened the door for me to have theological conversations with him about what sin is and how you get rid of sin, and how do you really live, because Muslims you have to do things to get rid of your sin, which is kind of what the Catholics sort of, and that's where they got into their issues, because they made a big deal about that, and then the reformer tried to fix it, but they were like, no, you can leave. So it's like, okay. So even though they were kicked out, they became the protesters, the Protestants. So it's funny. I got to tell the story of the history of Christianity to a group of Muslims one time, because I treated them nicely, and I made sure that they had their prayer time and that they had their stuff that they needed. And I stepped in to speak to one of the inmates about something unrelated. And one of the guys like, Chap, tell me about this Christianity thing, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you got about 5 minutes? And he's like, yeah. So I explained to him the history of Christianity and the theological things, because they were discussing Catholic and some of the other things in their stuff. So, so God has used me in odd and amazing ways. I've honestly said that martial arts has been my main ministry, and even when I ran my karate school, I ran a commercial karate school for 27 years. And then before that, I taught at Forest High School in the their community ed program. But I've always felt like God used me in those ways. I have a friend that had a school, and it was Christian karate. Well, does that mean you can only go there if you're a Christian?
Right.
You know,
That's yeah.
and I'm not opposed to that. If that's what you want, then that's okay. But my ministry quite often was after karate class. So I had one guy that he'd come help with the kids class, then we'd do the adult class, and then afterwards we would fight, and then like boxing, kicking, and then we would wrestle, and then we would close the curtains and we'd go get a beer and come back and sit and drink a beer and talk about God. And he really, I don't think it was just me, but I was one of the pieces in his life that really brought him back, because he refused to join the church because they didn't believe exactly like he believed.
Right.
And then finally he was like, oh, wait a minute, I guess I'm supposed to be connected with it.
Right.
And that's sort of the tithing problem. Well, how do I know the pastor, he drives a better car than me? How can I tithe to this church? He's got a nicer car than me. Well, tithing is what you're called to do. Mm-hmm. You're told no matter what the pastor does, if he sins, then that's on him.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a good steward of the gifts that God has given you, now we're in trouble. Now you need to be part of the church so that you can see where the money's going and see what the church is doing with the money. So now if your heart really wants to be wise and a good steward with the gift of your tithe to the church, well, then you've got to step in and connect and be part of the board that decides how much we pay the pastor and how much goes to missions work and how much goes to building the church.
You asked, so this is what you should do.
Yeah.
So do you think? So you're saying tithing, you have to give this certain way, or can you, like, we don't have a church, if we were to give to like the community in that way, is that considered tithing? Or
it's better than not, but here's my theological question for you. Are you deciding where the money goes? Do you decide who to give it to?
Maybe. I mean, it depends. Yeah. If God's saying bless this, organization or whatever.
And I understand that, but it's sort of it's a little bit semantics. It becomes a gift,
right?
Which is a good thing. We're supposed to give gifts, but it's not a tithe,
right? Because
a tithe is giving to the church that the church can decide as a community what to do with. Now, I'm not saying you're shame on you, because I've done the same thing.
No, but you answered my question.
Yeah. So when we weren't part of a church, we have, like, June was listening to this online pastor for a while, and on a few times when we weren't like really connected with the church, we would send him money, and just because God would put it on our hearts to do that. So, it's imperfect, but you have to kind of do what God directs you to do, and you're going to make mistakes and do wrong things, and so you just kind of just do your best to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. We get that.
So is there anything about y'all? I've kind of shared a lot of my adventures and challenges and changes, and anything y'all want to share?
I mean,
not that we haven't,
you probably shared on a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, listen to an old podcast.
Well, we really just want to have you share your story,
Yeah, and we've actually,
because it's so fascinating, like just everything, like just to know, like you can do so many of these things that, you're just, why not? Let's do this. One thing after another. And
one thing I love about you is like and it's not a bad thing, but you are a yes man in my mind. Not like yes to everything, but like you just have this spirit that's like, well, why not? I love that. When we asked you to come on, we had somebody cancel, and you're like, it wasn't even a, let me check my schedule. It was like, sure, I'll be there. I love that. I would love to be more like that. That's a very inspiring way to be, because, it's like the blessings you get from just having that kind of spirit, of the saying yes,
Go
I mean,
get
why
an
not,
attitude,
Yeah.
go for an attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
wherever God takes you,
and I, again, it kind of comes back to that whole martial arts thing in my first school, we did, it was all about repetition. Like, we would do one move, boom, and then you would literally just stand there and hold it while he walked around the room and checked everybody. And your legs are shaking and you're like holding your stance, and
right.
And so it was just this repetition,
Discipline.
This discipline.
Yeah.
So you had to self-discipline, because you had to, okay, am I gonna go to karate class today, and
right.
and am I gonna maintain this position, and you start seeing results from consistency, and then I just learned trying new things. I became better. I started juggling when my hand speed increased, which helped my martial arts, and the hand-eye coordination helped me with, just so many things are interconnected and cross over and keep your brain inspired and rewired and plastic. There's a book, The Plastic Brain or something like that,
I just heard about that recently. It's funny you bring that up.
Yeah, so it just talks about how your brain can change, and they used to think that your brain couldn't change,
right?
And then it can. One of my favorite stories was this guy lost sight, and he learned to read Braille, but he lost sight later. And when they would do his MRI of his brain as he was reading, the part for the brain part that controls your eyes is what his brain was using to feel the text.
Yeah.
The bumps,
it's
the Braille.
Working.
Yeah. So it rewired to feel as though he was seeing the words.
Seeing with his fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how your brain works and reworks. And then, we could get on a whole topic of Elon Musk with the brain Neuralinks.
Oh, yeah.
And people starting to walk with that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt it. I mean, that's, just like your daughter's,
yeah, the AI.
That's technology is amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. She is.
I definitely
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's
the little
awesome.
Wonder Woman.
I love that.
Yeah, mini Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all the things I've been doing. We've been doing. It's because I don't know. I hit a point in my life where I'm just like, why not? I can probably do that if anyone can do it.
Yeah.
There's YouTube.
Yep.
I'll go to YouTube and learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's it's helped us with so many things. Just technology is there, and there's
and we didn't have that growing up.
YouTube.
We literally have YouTube
Exactly.
and can learn anything from anybody.
Yeah.
I just remember that it hadn't been out that long, and I looked up YouTube on how to fix something on my Suburban, 1980 something Suburban.
Mm-hmm.
And this redneck guy, are you gonna take this thing here and you gonna go around all that that?
Just did the same thing.
I did exactly what he was doing, and I fixed it, and I was just blown away.
Crazy, I know.
Yeah.
I
think we found out a problem with the car.
There's so much more information now. It's like our daughter's Volvo. It had a problem with the alarm, but we didn't know it was the alarm. And I just typed it into YouTube, and I'm like, it's an alarm issue.
And this is after asking mechanics,
and then we fixed it.
Mechanics had no idea.
They had no idea. So. Yeah, it's there's so many resources to learn. Whatever
we call it
whatever
YouTube University.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our university YouTube.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's great for my ADHD mind.
I do want to once I move, I want to do the Jordan Peterson University. There's some classes that I want to take that he's he's offered. I think
Yeah,
that would be
I saw that too. It's
he came and
pretty affordable too,
like right down the road.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, not that long ago, a year ago or something.
Yeah, I saw something like that, and then I thought it was no, there's somebody else I was thinking of, but I did hear that he was in town too.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, I've read college.
Was it the Thrasher Horn?
Yeah, he spoke there.
What?
Yeah, literally.
I did not know that. That's like a block away.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if that's our daughter. Might be. But anyway.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to wrap it up or?
I think so.
Whatever.
This has been great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yes,
having
thank you for coming here.
It's been my honor to come and reconnect with y'all
on short notice
and even though I do have a YouTube, that's not my main thing. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, Young Arthur Smith III.
Okay.
And Instagram. So I do Instagram. And I just applied for my wife and I to be America's favorite couple. There's some kind of little contest so I think June the 30th they start voting. So it's a popularity.
Is that
contest.
In Jacksonville?
No, it's like a
national thing.
National thing. Yeah.
Oh, so, I'll have to look out for that and share that.
We'll have to do it next year after you guys win.
Definitely. So that's pretty cool.
Did I see something that you're preaching this Sunday?
I preached
or was it
the one before? Yeah, I filled in at the Filipino church, which makes my tummy happy.
Yeah.
They literally
we're definitely gonna have
lumpia.
To let us know the next time you're there because we'll come worship God and eat lumpia.
Yes, it's good. It's good stuff.
You have me at lumpia.
I love it.
I'll have to let them get you to jump up on the drums. So
hey, there you go.
That'd be cool.
Watch out.
Oh yeah, I found a new church. Hold on, they could pay me in lumpia.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Yep, lumpia and pancit.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
My wife loves the pancit. I'm not
Me
a pancit
too.
fan.
She loves that.
I like the lumpia.
I'm good on all of it. I like it all. Chicken on a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we'll have to come to Murray Hill, the theater.
The 30
come to
the
the
swing dance.
MHTRocks.com.
I'll put that up too. There's probably a flyer for that.
The 30th anniversary.
Yeah, 30th anniversary. They made a new shirt design and they've redone the theater. It's you remember how it used to have this old dirty
club
CBGB. Smell. Yeah. So now it's clean. And
oh wow. Yeah, I haven't been back.
Literally during 2020, my wife redid the whole thing, new carpet, new painted the floors, vacuumed the walls.
Wow. Yeah, that like the sticky club floor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Dingy.
Yeah,
but the Holy Spirit was there. So.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of good bands there.
Yeah, well, there's I can't remember who. I'm really bad at the names. There's a punk band coming. There's, like I said, Goaty Hook is coming. Phil Keggy.
I'll definitely look that up.
There's probably a list somewhere, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a list? Yeah.
30.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to check it out and see.
Yeah. So cool. It's quite the incredible ministry. And do you remember I know we're wrapping up, but do you remember the testimony of Tony Nesralla, the guy that
I've met Tony. I don't
the short version, which just rips your heart out. His wife and kids were in an airplane crash, and his kids passed away, and his wife had to relearn how to walk and talk. He was going to commit suicide, and God in his life. His wife, you can't tell that she ever had any issues. She plays musical instruments. They had 2 more kids since then, and they're all grown up now. But it's just an incredible time, and God put it on his heart to start the ministry, which is volunteer driven. Like most everybody there is a volunteer, and there's so much powerful ministry that has happened that's not from the stage, that's to the bands, to the volunteers, to the community service workers, to the people coming to the shows, and so.
And this is a person who owns it or runs.
Yeah, so he started. No he started Murray Hill Theater, and the idea for Murray Hill Theater came from Fishnet, which was a ministry that St. Peter's Church had started in the 70s, kind of like a Jesus coffee house movement. And they would have live bands on Friday night, and me and my buddy, when I was in high school, would go there every Friday night. And so I was connected with that church, and I eventually ended up running the food pantry that church,
That's
you
awesome.
know, did. And then Tony had gone to Fishnet also, which inspired him to start Murray Hill Theater. So,
Wow.
so all of these
Man,
all of these interconnections. So
I love
that's
that.
cool.
I love seeing God work like that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for inviting me, and
Yes, thank you for coming to hang out with us.
No
It's been
problem.
awesome.
Have to come do it again, and do it again, and I'll bring my wife.
Yes,
next time.
Yes,
definitely.
definitely.
She's much more interesting than me.
Oh. We would love
She
that.
must be very interesting then.
Right?
That's awesome.
I mean, you have quadruplets, and you immediately become very interesting.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's a handful.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna have to donate something to go in your room
Oh.
here. I don't know what.
Heck yeah.
You don't have room for it, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, we will make room. As you
I'll
can
find
see,
room.
he makes room for it.
Yes.
I
I
don't
can give y'all
I see something new
and
every time.
replace it.
Ah,
you know?
yes.
A lamp or something.
Yeah. Yep. I love
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank
So
you
we're
for
out.
watching.
We're out. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Subscribe
Listening.
and share.
it. Cheers.
And let's have another cheers. Cheers.